Dale, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Dennis, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Ian, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Evening, Miles and family. Hope all is well. Good to let's go. Dennis, good to see you. Ian, good to see you as well. Denise, good to see you. How you doing, Denise? How you been? Bullock Sophie, good to see you as well. How you doing? Pablo, good to see you. How you doing? How you doing, Miles? I'm doing great. Theos, how you doing? Roscoe, good to see you. How you doing? By the way, thank you so much to everyone that's liking and retweeting the live show as well. Give some notifications. Thanks so much to everyone from the CMF right now that's liking and retweeting the live show on X. And thank you so much to everyone that's liking the live show on YouTube as well. Gino's good to see you. How you doing? I'm on time today. Let's go. Perfect timing as well. So I'm going to do the gist of what we're going to talk about tonight's live show, and then we do the disclaimer and essentially the intro. By that time, everyone's pretty much tuned in for the first part of the live show. So here's the gist of what we're going to be talking about tonight's live show. We're going to be going through regarding how much Donald Trump has raised in terms of cryptocurrencies so far, straight after the Bitcoin conference that he recently did. And there's obviously going to be going towards his campaign in terms of cryptocurrencies. We're also going to be talking about the new Bitcoin bill that's just essentially going around right now in terms of the Fed actually essentially, regarding Bitcoin being used as a reserve asset. Something that Donald Trump did introduce as an idea is actually being considered right now. We're also going to be talking about tonight's live show regarding Japan. Now, we all know that Japan was going through some crisis situation regarding their currency. The Japanese yen was not doing too well. But then how that problem got fixed was essentially the United States printing, let's just say, and then borrowing money to the Japanese banks to essentially buy out the rest of the banks so their economy doesn't collapse. Now, they're thinking about going through some rate cut situations. And essentially, the majority of the crypto space is waiting to see what happens with Japan tomorrow regarding the Federal Reserve's plans. We're also going to be talking about tonight's live show regarding Avalanche. Avalanche has done something quite interesting that's pretty much never been done before. So Avalanche is going into the space of the automotive space, which is vehicles, in other words. So they're actually going to be digitalizing titles on the Avalanche blockchain, and they're going to be starting out with 42 million cars. 42 million vehicles are going to be going on the blockchain, but not any blockchain, Avalanche's blockchain, which is quite impressive. And it's a new method that's being used, but it also goes back to what I said regarding everything is about to go on the blockchain, your cars, your homes, everything you think about it. We're also going to be talking about tonight's live show regarding Bitcoin as a store of value being essentially suggested by Goldman Sachs CEO. Goldman Sachs CEO was asked in an interview, regarding what he thinks about Bitcoin so far, and he said he sees it as a reserve asset. We're also going to talk about the Bank of England on tonight's live show as well. Apparently, the Bank of England is also spearheading towards their CBDC projects, wholesale CBDCs in this case. We're going to be talking about tonight's live show going through information that's just came out of Russia and how Russia has fully legalized crypto mining. Interesting enough, this is all coming from the implementations Donald Trump made regarding the US being the #1 in Bitcoin mining, holding Bitcoin, and so on. Hong Kong took notes about this regarding the Bitcoin situation that Donald Trump wants to bring inside the United States, make Bitcoin everything. So Hong Kong is planning on doing the exact same thing before apparently Donald Trump essentially implements it. China is thinking about, maybe essentially not being so strict on cryptocurrencies or even Bitcoin in this matter, just because of what Donald Trump said. Russia has fully legalized crypto mining based on what he said as well. It looks like everybody wants to get involved in Bitcoin before Donald Trump makes it the presidency by the looks of it. And we're also going to be talking about tonight's live show regarding Democratic congressmen who have came out and once again spread lies. We're going to go through that on tonight's live show as well. We're also going to be going through on tonight's live show regarding Ripple's CEO coming out and essentially embarrassing the SEC, mainly Mr. Gary Gensler. Mr. Gary Gensler has now just been embarrassed again with an interesting case. We're also going to talk about tonight's live show regarding a crucial matter, which is essentially cross-border payments and how Russia has now just embraced crypto international payments. They've embraced the idea fully regarding crypto international payments. And we're going to be talking about Circle, because Circle is planning to go essentially public and their full IPO, and their valuation has just now came out. So the same way essentially Coinbase did a full IPO and they're a public company, anybody can buy Coinbase shares. Next is Circle, and Circle's valuation has just came in and they're getting ready for their IPO. And we're going to be talking about the digital euro on tonight's live show as well, how far the digital euro has came and when it's planning on exactly starting the launch. And it fits exactly with the same timeline I suggested a very long time ago. Even though the EU said they're going to be launching their CBDCs in 2030, it seems like the EU is going to be launching next year. We're also going to talk about tonight's live show regarding Ripple and Brazil as well. So quite a mixture of news to go from tonight's live show regarding CBDC, regarding two matters from Ripple, the SEC getting embarrassed again, which is not that difficult for the SEC to get embarrassed these days. We're also going to talk about regarding the political campaigns that are going on, how much donations have been raised, perspectives from different CEOs and executive board members from major corporations out there. So quite a mixture of news to go from tonight's live show. If you are watching this for the first time ever, welcome to the CMF live show. If you're watching this for the first time ever, on this live show every single night, you can tune in 11:30 p.m. onwards UK time to hear about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, regulations, politics, everything that plays a vital role in the world shifting into a digital era. And we also do live Q&As as well, which means if you have any questions, put it down inside the comment section and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. The disclaimer of this live show, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. So if you're watching this for the first time ever, welcome to the CMF live show. If you're watching this as a regular, let's go CMF. The live show has officially started now. The first news we are going to be going from tonight's live show is regarding Trump's campaign raise in the whole Bitcoin conference and how much cryptocurrencies so far has Trump raised. If you're wondering how much Kamala Harris has raised in cryptocurrencies, it's zero. But if you're wondering how much Trump has raised so far in terms of cryptocurrencies, especially after that Bitcoin conference, I'm about to tell you in about 2 seconds. But before I do that, let's go inside the comment section first. Any news today? Yes, quite a bit of news to go through on tonight's live show. I'm going to switch to YouTube, no problem, Pablo. Evening, Miles of CMF. Manny, good to see you. How you doing? Good evening, Miles of CMF. Free and Feather, good to see you. How you doing? Good evening, Miles and all the CMF. JP, good to see you, brother. How you doing? How you been? So, Trump's campaign is the first news we're going to go from tonight's live show. Trump's campaign has raised $21 million just during pretty much the Bitcoin conference, the 2024 conference that just happened in Nashville. The former President Donald Trump, who became the first major candidate to address cryptocurrencies conference on Saturday, reportedly raised $21 million during the Bitcoin 2024 event. Essentially, according to Bitcoin Magazine CEO David Bailey, the money primarily came in from the Bitcoin conference fundraisers for Trump at the Nashville Music City Center on Saturday, following his much-anticipated speech. The event, in part organized by Senator Bill, which reportedly attended by 100 individuals, represented in his second highest fundraiser ever. Trump has successfully courted the cryptocurrency votes and received backings from some of the industry's leading personalities, after pledging to re-inform the United States regulatory environments seriously. Over the past several months on the campaign trails, he has made several outward essentially overtures to the industry and raised money from some of its leading voices. According to an RSVP invitation seen by The Block, a roundtable on Saturday with the former president cost of $844,000 per person, while a photo was at least 60,000. Attendees reportedly included Gemini's co-founders, and while celebrities like Kid Rock, Jake Paul, Billy Riley, and so on. According to Fox journalist Eleanor Torres, many celebrities were there, many executive members from different companies were there, and they're all backing Trump. They're all blockchain companies. Came from a combo of industries and Wales OGs. David Bailey, CEO of Bitcoin Magazine, which ran the event, said on X, In addition to millions brought in during the Nashville event, the campaign had raised $4 million in crypto since the beginning to accept digital asset donations. In May, before the start of the conference, more than $2.15 million of which come just from 19 donors. This appears to be why Trump said on stage he had already raised $25 million in crypto. Trump previously reported personally owning between $100,000 to $250,000 in cryptocurrencies in 2020. His campaign has raised a total of $221 million and currently has $128 million in cash on hand, according to a Federal Election Commission filing. The news comes as cryptocurrencies focused Fair Shake has grown to the largest super political action committee with a war chest of over $202 million to back pro-crypto politicians. In recent weeks, a number of industries have come out to endorse the fund of Donald Trump campaign and other supported politicians from across the aisles. After years of hostility from the regulators and legislators and the White House, industry participants have begun to see the current U.S. election cycle as a industry for innovation. If the Dems win, it's over for crypto in the United States. A former Missouri CEO, Ryan, told the block in a direct message. Yes, it is true. Obviously, if Kamala Harris wins, Kamala Harris has she basically has no brain cells to understand what cryptocurrencies is. And Trump in particular has emerged as a surprising campaign for the industry, especially given his previous hostilities towards cryptocurrencies. He has since taken a shine to it and has embraced some of the crypto's biggest names out there, particularly following his 48-minute address on the Bitcoin 2024 conference, where he announced the creation of strict Bitcoin reserves and pledged to fire the crypto-skeptical SEC chairman, Gary Gensler. Exchange heads Jason Paul of Kraken and the Winklevoss brothers of Gemini have each donated at least $1 million to the Trump campaign in recent weeks, though some of these funds were returned for crossing the donor threshold. So if you want to know how far Trump has come inside the crypto space, is he actually getting support from the crypto space? Well, if people are donating to him during that Bitcoin conference, and there were so many executive board members out there as well, he raised about $21 million in that whole segment. I think people are definitely, for him inside the crypto space, because that will give you confirmation. Yes, people can attend the event, and that's pretty much it. But if people are donating to him and he's able to raise in pretty much 3 days that much amount of money, there's definitely interest on the crypto side towards Donald Trump. Now, also Donald Trump will create quite a bit of a bullish scene inside the crypto space on a major scale. Now, breaking news has just came out. New Bitcoin bill in the US includes revaluing of the Fed's gold to create a strategic essentially Bitcoin reserve. Something that was also mentioned inside the whole, Nashville event, Bitcoin event conference that was going on, where many people spoke out. Donald Trump did say that he wants to make Bitcoin a reserve asset, which was an idea that he's introduced. Now, it seems like the Fed is thinking about it because they're about to introduce a draft bill. Now, here is the draft bill. Troy, good to see you as well. How you doing? Actually, before we go inside the next news, let's go inside the comment section first before we go inside the next news. But we're going to talk about essentially the bill, which is a quite revolutionary bill if it gets implemented. Let's see where we were. We were here. Even the Mouse and CMF. Jason, good to see you as well. How you doing? Hyper Sniper, good to see you as well. How you doing? Great live is good. Thank you. I hope you had a great day. It was good. It was very good. Busy day. How are you, my friend? Troy, good to see you as well. How you doing? So, a new draft bill under the working title Bitcoin Act of 2024. Bitcoin Act of 2024 proposes establishing a U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserve that would be financed in part by the revelation of the Fed's gold. According to the bill, the Secretary of the Treasury will be responsible for creating a decentralized network of secure Bitcoin storage facilities across the United States. These facilities will be strategically located based on comprehensive risk assessments that prioritize geographic diversity, security, and accessibility. The draft bill outlines a Bitcoin purchase program that aims to deliver up to 200,000 Bitcoin per year, a 5-year period reaching 1 million BTC in total. The purchased Bitcoin will be held for at least 20 years and can only be deposed to pay federal debts. After this period, no more than 10% of the asset can be sold in any 2-year period. To finance this initiative, the plan calls for allocating $6 million. To finance this initiative, The plan calls for allocating $6 billion from net earnings transferred to the Treasury by the Fed between the fiscal years of 2025 and 2029. The bill also proposes reducing the funds surplus of the Fed's banks to $2.4 billion from the current level of $6.825 billion, as envisioned by the Federal Reserve Act. The bill also requires Fed banks to surrender all gold certificates they hold to the Secretary of the Treasury within 6 months of the law's entry into force. Within the next 90 days, the Secretary of the Treasury will issue a new gold certificates to the Fed banks that reflect their fair market value price of gold. So gold is about to be revalued in some sort of a way. But not only that, but we're also getting a Bitcoin Act. Now, it is a new draft bill. So a little bit of time before it goes into actual law. But what is interesting is they're actually thinking about it. Something that Donald Trump said, they're actually thinking about it. They're actually thinking about introducing a Bitcoin Act of 2024, where they start buying Bitcoin to, bring back the United States regarding how much they've printed. In other words, in a very simple way, the amount of money that they've the amount of money that they've printed, the amount of debt that they've essentially created, is going to be fixed by the amount of Bitcoin they're going to be buying and putting as a reserve asset. In a very simple term, but it's an idea that came from people around Trump, and then Trump announced it, and now it's being taken seriously. So, Bitcoin investors are watching Bank of Japan. It moves ahead of the Fed rate decision. Is the next news we're going to cover on tonight's live show. Before we go through that news regarding the Japanese banking systems not going into a collapse, which is a good thing. Because that wouldn't really, help the economy in any sort of way or help the market space in any sort of a way. But before we go through that news, let's go start the comment section first. Stacey, good to see you as well. How you doing? Jim, good to see you as well. How you doing? Hi, Miles. What happened to ETH ETFs? So it all happened. Okay, regarding Ethereum ETFs, it's a very simple answer. Before the Ethereum ETFs launched, happy Pisces, good to see you as well. How you doing? Before the Ethereum ETFs launched, if you tuned into that live show, now every live show that I do is pre-recorded. Every live show that I do, the moment the live show ends, it essentially publishes the live show straight away. So you can go back to my previous videos as well. So everything that I'm saying is just I'm repeating myself on something that I said a while ago. Before the Ethereum ETFs were approved, I said to everybody that history can repeat itself again. And I said to everybody that Grayscale is playing the exact same thing that they did a long time ago with Bitcoin ETFs. Grayscale held essentially their clients' Bitcoins on a lock for 6 months. The Bitcoin ETF started, Grayscale let go of the locks, and they were charging 2.5% fees, which means that nobody was buying Bitcoin ETFs right at the beginning. Even if they were, the inflows, essentially wouldn't balance out the outflows that were happening out of Grayscale. So at the beginning of the Bitcoin ETFs, essentially, Grayscale was the manipulator, which caused a lot of outflows. And then the Bitcoin ETF news was announced, and Bitcoin didn't do good at all in any sort of way right at the beginning. And that's because of Grayscale's manipulation of locking people's Bitcoins for 6 months, releasing the locks, charging 2.5% fee. So I said history can repeat itself, and I said this before the Ethereum ETFs came out. What did you know? When the Ethereum ETFs did come out, Grayscale again was manipulating the factor as well. So Grayscale was offering once again a 2.5% fee charge, and they were locking people's Ethereums 6 months prior to the Ethereum ETF launch. The Ethereum ETF launch happened. Grayscale let go of the locks and charged everybody 2.5% essentially fee to jump onto Ethereum ETFs. Now, Ethereum ETFs, the main factor of Ethereum is staking. And staking is not offered with Ethereum ETFs in any sort of a way. So that's already one factor that's not looking good for Ethereum ETFs. The second factor essentially is that Grayscale was the manipulator once again. So history repeats itself. These are things I said before the Ethereum ETFs fully launched. And as I've always said, I'm never wrong, because I base everything that I say on factual information, on essentially PDF documentations, and that history pretty much always repeats itself because people are forgetful. Because if people remembered how the Bitcoin ETF situation started with Grayscale manipulating the hell out of it right at the beginning, because everybody was expecting Bitcoin to go to the moon the moment the ETF news was announced. Instead, they did the opposite. Why did it do the opposite? Because Grayscale manipulated the hell out of it. 6 months lock came off. Everybody sold out of Grayscale, and Grayscale had the biggest bag of Bitcoin at that time. Now, obviously, the tables have turned. The biggest bag of Bitcoin is held by BlackRock. But at that time, they had the biggest bag. 6 month lock, locks come off, everybody leaves essentially Grayscale because they're charging 2.5% on purpose. So, same thing around this time. Grayscale held the biggest bag of Ethereum, they still do, and charging 2.5% fee. Prior to the launch, they were essentially holding people's Ethereum for a 6-month lock. Lock comes off, everybody sells out of Grayscale because nobody wants to pay 2.5% fees. Slowly, just exactly what happened with the Bitcoin ETFs. Slowly, people started transitioning from the Ethereum ETF out of Grayscale into BlackRock's ETF. Same thing is going to be happening this time around. Now, obviously, people would say this is bad for Grayscale. Why would Grayscale do this? It's not bad for Grayscale in any sort of a way. Grayscale owns shares in BlackRock. BlackRock owns shares in Grayscale. Grayscale owns shares in Goldman Sachs. And it's just one big circle of manipulation. But history pretty much repeated itself, is what I said. So if nothing happened to the Ethereum ETFs, and I know nothing happened to the Ethereum ETFs because I said nothing will happen to the Ethereum ETFs right at the beginning, because I said consider it as an outcome that once the ETFs regarding Ethereum launch, history may repeat itself with Grayscale being the manipulator. And I said this before the Ethereum ETFs launch. After the Ethereum ETFs launched, a few days later, we had an article come out that Grayscale was charging 2.5% fees and was locking everybody's Ethereum 6 months prior to it. Exact same thing they did with the Bitcoin ETFs. So same thing is going to happen regarding the Ethereum ETFs, regarding Bitcoin ETFs that happen to the Ethereum ETFs. So they're going to follow each other. So for a little while, it's going to be not much volume coming in, and then suddenly the volume starts coming in. But Ethereum situation could also be just a little bit different because they're not offering staking, so it's not an appealing asset. But it still has the charm of smart contracts. But yeah, regarding Ethereum ETFs, nothing's happened so far. I know. I told everybody nothing's going to happen. I said consider an outcome that Grayscale can manipulate it the same way they did with the Bitcoin ETFs. Regarding Ethereum ETFs, like saw it all happen. Yeah. I said no. I basically in your words as well. I said saw it's going to be happening. Hi Miles, is there any point in investing in privacy coins like Monero, because won't they be the first to be shut down because of their usage in not so legitimate businesses? Yes, regarding privacy coins, obviously, governments don't like the idea of privacy coins being used by people from the retail section, or in the government's eyes, peasants, which all of us are in the eyes of the governments. We're all peasants to them. And, they don't like the idea of people using privacy coins because it's a little bit more difficult to track people on transactions. However, even if privacy coins go out of the centralized exchanges, they're not listed on centralized exchanges for anybody to buy them anymore, they can still be operating on the DeFi space, essentially, which means they will have value on the DeFi space, but they'll most likely have value on black markets. In a very simple way to put it. Privacy coins will only have value on the black market as we go further and further. They wouldn't have any sort of value on centralized exchanges as we go further and further into this whole digital world. Centralized exchanges are delisting them one by one because jurisdictions don't like the idea of essentially, in the EU was the first, Canada was actually the first one to delist privacy tokens. And then the EU came out with the MiCA regulations, which recently got implemented, and they don't like privacy coins either, so they delisted privacy coins. Any exchange that wants to operate in the EU has to delist privacy coins. So over time, privacy coins wouldn't have any sort of value going for them. They will have value, but you wouldn't be able to use it on a daily basis because centralized exchanges wouldn't accept them. Essentially, no businesses would accept them in terms of transactions, but they'll have their own value on the black market, in simple terms. So they won't get rid of them, but they'll let them have value on the black market. Hi, Miles and CMF. George, good to see you. How you doing? BlackRock ad at the start of your life. At the start of your life, there was a BlackRock advert at the start of my live show on YouTube. Okay, that's an interesting one. Good evening, Miles and CMF. David, good to see you. How you doing? So yeah, that's what I would say. Prices, they will have value on a different type of market space. They would have value in general, but they will have usage, is what I mean, on a different type of market space. Is it me or was X getting so? Now I have no longer watched the live as usual without it lagging. I don't know. YouTube, shift over to YouTube if you want. The live show is also on YouTube as well. Hello, CMF. I love my family. Let's go, Scott. How you doing, Scott? How you been? Miles, how are your parents? How are you doing today? Business very well. Busy. Well, Dave's been also busy as well, and my parents do very well. Thanks for asking, Scott. How's your family doing, Scott? Woodhouse, good to see you as well. How you doing? Free and Feather, nice one, brother. Let's go. But yeah, that's what I would say about Pisces regarding that matter. They would have usage or use case, in other words, on a different type of market space, not the traditional market space in any sort of a way. It would have value, but no use for it, unless you're planning on operating in the other market space. Now, I shifted. Let's go, Sidham. How you doing? You're on YouTube now. Bitcoin investors. Bitcoin investors are watching Bank of Japan as it moves ahead of the Fed rate decision. As the Federal Reserve and the Bank of Japan, the BOJ, weigh key monetary policies, Bitcoin and other crypto investors are eager to learn how the central bank's respective moves could influence markets tomorrow. The Bank of Japan would outline plans for rate hikes timing that could strengthen the Japanese yen's value. In combination with details of decrease and purchasing of Japanese bonds, the decision comes after a central bank raised interest rates in March for the first time in 17 years. Whether or not the Bank of Japan raises interest rates again is currently a coin flip, with the market pricing a 50% chance per retainers. Now, while the currency's value has railed sharply against the United States dollar over the past 2 weeks, it still slid 8% over the past year. Anticipation towards the Bank of Japan's rate hike has caused the yen's value to rise as traders are betting against the currency's value and have moved to cover trades with the sale of other assets. Joe Tuckey, head of FX analysis and Argotex Group, did an interview with Decrypt, and he said in a statement, markets have developed a hawkish expectation for the upcoming Bank of Japan meeting, he wrote. He said, however, there is a risk that the Bank of Japan may not rise rates at tonight's meeting. Instead, the Bank of Japan could opt to reduce their bond purchase program. The economist Alex, who wrote on Twitter, aka X, that the Bank of Japan's decision could lead to a further selling in US dollar assets, as well as before the US central bank's decision Wednesday. Meanwhile, a risk-off attitude in Japan has created a headwinds for crypto, according to Chris, a partner at the venture capital firm Placeholder. The market is making a fool of everyone, myself included, he wrote, adding that risk is nuking in Japan while bleeding into crypto. In May, BetMEX's co-founder Arthur Hayes wrote on the Bank of Japan rate hike would cause a meltdown for the central bank as existing Japanese bonds cater in value. From his perspective, the central bank would be forced instead to print the yen while swapping it for the US dollars. When something is done about the weak yen, I will mathematically guesstimate how flows into Bitcoin complex with ratchet prices to $1 million and possibly beyond, he wrote. Meanwhile, the Fed is expected to hold its benchmark interest rates steady on Wednesday still. Investors will be parsing a follow-up speech from Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. For clues, basically. Investors are currently penciling in a 91% chance that the Fed will cut interest rates in September, reducing borrowing costs for investors in the process. A weakening of the dollars that's likely to follow would be a supportive of Bitcoin's price. Grayscale's head of research, Zach, told Decrypt in a written statement earlier this month as well, as in 2020, lower interest rates should tend to weaken the value of the dollar and support the price of Bitcoin, he wrote, adding that Grayscale's research continues to think that Bitcoin's price can retest its highs later this year. So, those are multiple perspectives of how the Japanese situation is going right now. So the Japanese yen is obviously not doing too well for itself. However, the printing is going to be starting in Japan, which means they're going to start printing Japanese yen to buy US dollars and then buy out their Japanese bonds from their commercial banks to balance the banks so the economy doesn't collapse in Japan, which is a good thing. The economy shouldn't collapse in Japan because a lot of people would go bankrupt in Japan. And a lot of people have the exact same perspective. That's as long as they stick to their plans and stick to their guns, they should be on the right path of recovery. Now, how should that play out inside the crypto space? Well, the crypto market is essentially on a halt, and so is the stock market in some sort of a way. They're both on a halt. They don't know which way to move because interest rates could be announced, which means one moves up, stocks moves up, crypto moves down on interest rates being announced. And if it doesn't get announced, crypto goes up, stock goes down. So that's what they're waiting for right now on the response of, is Jerome Powell going to be coming out saying something major? Is Japan's bank, essentially the Bank of Japan, going to be coming out and announcing something major regarding their economy? How will that play out? Is what's the response everybody's waiting for inside the crypto space right now. That's why the market is on a slight halt. Now, what you have realized, I'm guessing, is that XRP and XLM have detached themselves from Bitcoin for a while now, for a little while now. XRP and XLM have detached themselves from following Bitcoin, which is quite interesting as well, because we are getting more and more into CBDCs. And I've got a lot of CBDC news regarding announcements of introduction of CBDCs coming out from which countries on tonight's live show as well, one of them being a massive continent. But yeah, on that basis, there's a lot of things happening regarding XRP detaching itself from Bitcoin, which is good to see the progress being made right now. Now, this one is a bit of a major news that I'm going to be telling you, which is something that I've never encountered inside the crypto space, but it's something that I've said will happen. A long time ago on this live show, I said to people that I get a lot of questions. You know, people message me all the time regarding questions to cryptocurrencies or politics or how the market will play out on the stock market and so on. What should they invest in? What should they research? And a lot of people send me messages on Telegram, WhatsApp, direct messages on Instagram, and so on. And sometimes questions on X. And my response has always been just focus on the crypto side market. You know, people who message me, you know, should I go for real estate? Should I go for stock market? Should I go for this? I always say stick to the crypto market, because everything around you is about to be going on blockchain, is what I've always said. I've always said that the stock market is about to be, you know, become tokenized, go on the blockchain. Your car will go in the blockchain. Your house will go in the blockchain. This bonds, derivatives, securities, everything around you is about to go on the blockchain. It was essentially what I've always said. And I said that this market space, which is this big, which is the crypto space, is about to revolutionize the stock market, the real estate market, the automotive market, and so on and so on, is what I've always said. And I said this in 2023, that you should focus on the blockchain space. Forget about the stock market, forget about the real estate market, forget about every other market space. Focus on blockchain, because the blockchain space is this big, and it's about to revolutionize everything, is what I've always said. And now we have news on something quite interesting. Avalanche is about to bring vehicles on the blockchain. So, Ava Labs, so Avalanche in other words, to provide 42 million digital car titles via mobile app by 2025. Ava Labs, Avalanche, and California's Department of Motor Vehicles, DMV, have taken a major step in combating fraud and streamlining processes by digitalizing 42 million car titles through blockchain technology. This initiative was jointly implemented with Oxhead Alpha within the framework of Ava Labs Avalanche blockchain. It is the first one of its kind inside the United States. 42 million car titles are about to go on the Avalanche blockchain. Avalanche Labs and California's DMV launch blockchain car titles. The California Department of Motor Vehicles, DMV, and Ava Labs recently concluded their digitalization process of migrating 42 million car titles onto the Avalanche blockchain. This is a bid to check on fraud activities concerning vehicle ownership and simplifying the transfer of ownership documents. Through the use of blockchain, the blockchain ledger, the DMV guarantees the integrity of records in such a way that once issued, they cannot be changed, hence increasing the credibility of vehicle registrations. John Wu, the president of Ava Labs, shed more light on the project. He said this deployment on the Avalanche blockchain is a significant shift towards a more secure and efficient system for managing vehicle titles in California. Blockchain technology is crucial in eliminating fraud as it creates a transparent and secure system. Mobile access to vehicle titles starting 2025. Mobile access to vehicles starting 2025 with Avalanche in the United States with the DMV. California residents can therefore expect to obtain their digital car titles through a mobile app from early 2025. This application will ensure that transferring of vehicle titles is done in a very convenient way without the need for use of hard copies or visiting the DMV, because it's all on the Avalanche blockchain. The app will also make it easier to update and transfer ownership of titles, which is very useful in the state of the population of over 39 million people. Therefore, the use of digital titles via mobile application is expected to greatly improve the convenience of car owners with regards to the management of their vehicles, in accordance with the general tendencies of digitalization and the focus on mobile solutions and public services. Furthermore, the Ava Labs partnerships is projected to cut down on the number of times that residents will need to physically visit the DMV. This is in line with other measures being taken to offer digital government services to the public in bid to enhance efficiency. Avalanche's new petrol contracts. Concurrently, Hashkey Global announced a major expansion of its derivatives offerings, which includes the launch of a new petrol-traded contracts for Avalanche, AVAX, and 2 other cryptocurrencies. This expansion will also open new opportunities for users and satisfy the needs of investors in cryptocurrencies. The newly introduced petrol contracts share common features of all the USDT based, and they have a maximum leverage of ratios of 10x, which helps the traders increase their profits and equal measures. So, Avalanche, DMV, 42 million titles is what's going on right now. They're launching in 2025. I've also said this for a while as well, that nobody's focused on AVAX as well. A lot of people inside the crypto space are focused. Look, I'll be very honest. If I had the choice, and again, I've always said this as well, whatever cryptocurrency you're holding, I hope you do very well in life. Honestly, if you're no matter what cryptocurrency you're holding, I hope everyone does incredibly well and makes a lot of money for themselves. Now, putting that to one side, if I had the choice of which blockchain would I choose to go for in terms of seeing a future for it, because you got to remember that cryptocurrencies essentially are not stocks. They have utility purposes. So on the basis that they have utility purposes, and we are going into utility day by day, because 2024 is the year of paperwork by the looks of it, because the world is shifting into digital era. And if I had a choice of Solana, which everybody's mostly focused on inside the crypto space, or AVAX, or TON, I would put TON first, AVAX second, Solana third. A lot of people are focused on Solana, mainly because of the meme section, which they wouldn't last too long anyways in terms of regulations. And then people are now focused on the Base network, because that's Coinbase's network, and it's going to be massive. And Base is obviously based on OP, which is based on Ethereum. And it is going to become massive. It's Coinbase's network, but the focus right now is shifting from essentially Solana to essentially Base, where the focus should be on TON and AVAX. AVAX with their subnet greens, with JP Morgan, Citibank, and other commercial businesses, and now essentially vehicle titles, DMV. This is their first one. They're going to get the rest of them as well. Every essentially state inside the United States is going to be, once one state does it, the rest will follow inside the United States. The rest will be a piece of cake for AVAX to sign the deals on, to bring them over essentially. So I would say shift your focus from Solana and Base to TON and AVAX. TON, Telegram, 900 million users. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Crypto projects would dream of having access to 900 million users. TON has access to 900 million users. Eventually, it will have 900 million users because of Telegram. And Telegram will only ever use TON because they developed TON and then dropped it because the SEC was about to sue them, and then partnered with it as a separate company. But TON and AVAX is a better option than Solana and Base. And again, nothing wrong with Base. It's going to do, it's going to do exceptionally well for itself as well. Base will do very well for itself as well. But TON and AVAX, you need to start shifting focus over to TON and AVAX, away from Solana and Base. My perspective, based on contracts. Now, Bitcoin as a store of value. Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon sees such a case. So the question was asked from Goldman Sachs' CEO, on an interview, what do you think about Bitcoin? What's the future of Bitcoin in how you see it from your perspective? And he responded with store of value, which I see the same thing as well. Now, we're going to be going essentially through what exactly he said. But before we do that, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see where we were. Yeah, I have to watch the miles on YouTube now because X just buffers every 30 seconds. I don't have that problem on YouTube. Not interested in the privacy coins investment. I just was curious. Just it seems like you have a target on your back if you bought them. Yeah, exactly what you said about prices. If you do buy privacy projects, it's basically what it is. You just have some sort of a target on your back. And where can I find a donate button on YouTube for the CMF hedge fund? Where can you find the donate button on the YouTube? I'll be honest, I don't know where the donate button is. Shelly, good to see you as well. How you doing? Morning, Shelly. Got my professional emails for my business today. Let's go with house. But you can ask Jason, you can ask Shelly, Ian, and Free Feather. They've made donations on this YouTube live, and I think they would have a better understanding of how to make a donation on the YouTube live for the CMF hedge fund. I have no idea where the button is for the donations, but if you ask Shelly, Ian, or Freedom Forever, they know where the button is for the donation on YouTube. I have no idea where the button is at all. Sorry about that. But they can help you on where the button is. So if anybody wants to help out Jason, Shelly, good to see you. How you doing? Morning. Hi there, everyone. Leaf, good to see you. How you doing? Lena, good to see you. How you doing? They already helped you because I just scrolled down. Jason, thank you so much for the £2 donation to the CMF hedge fund. And thank you so much for the £50 donation to the CMF hedge fund as well. And Free and Forever, don't get me wrong. I respect you and Ian, and it's not meant to be sarcastic, but it's my weird sense of humor. I'm sorry to both of you, Ian. What's going on there? Lena, good to see you. How you doing? Video game controller, punches and kicks in between the words, super effective. Jason, thank you so much for the kind donations to the CMF hedge fund. Miles, what is the CME as listed XRP? Oh, the Chicago, essentially. It's not listed fully, but it's just what they're declaring it as and their own definition. Car titles are bonds. Yes. Hi, Miles and CMF family. Good to see you guys. Good to see you as well. How you doing, Theos? Is it time to turn on my CMF TV? Yes, it is. Stacy, thank you so much for a $20 donation as well to the CMF hedge fund. Pure character dancing under a rain of confetti and taking his hat off to say you are amazing. Thank you so much, Stacy, for that as well. I can't see the emojis, but interesting enough, it describes what the emoji is to me. So I'm reading what the emoji is as a description. Just for the humor and entertain. Only is it worth getting into town now to sell in 2025. I know it's great for people that got into town 2 years ago. If it's 10x, it's worth it. Into ton. A 10x from today's price till Christmas, let's say 2025. Share this program. I just did. Let's go, Scott. What's so great about Ton? Not too familiar with it. Ton, Telegram. Telegram has 900 million users. And Ton essentially is Telegram's platform. Telegram created Ton a long time ago. Then the SEC came to sue Telegram, so they dropped the program Ton. And later on, Ton was picked up by a few developers and then pondered with Telegram as a loophole, so they don't get sued by the SEC. And Telegram has access to over 900 million users. Telegram is planning to become an everything app, the same way X is planning to become an everything app. Telegram is also planning to become an everything app. And their only token is Ton because they developed it. And it's 900 million users. 900 million users, which any blockchain project would dream about, essentially, of having 900 million users. Any news on XDC, XLM, ACH, and HBAR? So far, no news regarding XDC, XLM, ACH, and HBAR. The last news that we had regarding ACH was the new licenses they received. The last news we received about HBAR was essentially the partnership agreements that were going on with Ripple. And the last news we received from XDC was regarding the R3 code and the Japanese banks, and XLM, the last news we received from them was also some sort of licensing they received. Does Ledger or Tangent allow you to hold TON? I think Tangent does, yes, on Telegram. But if it doesn't, TON has their own wallet. On laptop, it says dollar button. On the laptop, it says dollar button. How are we investing in your company? How are we investing in your company? You're not investing into my company at all. What's actually happening is we're doing a CMF hedge fund. We're doing a CMF hedge fund, not now, but in progress is what's happening right now. Jason, so CMF hedge fund is for everyone inside a CMF that wants to be involved in it. Jason found the mouse. It's next to the chat. It's a dollar sign to the right of the chat. It's the dollar button by the smiley face where you type in your messages. Tom, I have to put a photo in the CMF for those trying to find where the donate button is on YouTube. Shelly, thank you so much for that. I slipped between TON on Link. Should I have stayed all in TON? Or you split between TON and Link? No, Link is good as well. If you split between TON and Link, you're good on that basis. TON and Link, I mean, Link is an incredible project as well. Prospering future ahead of itself. What price points did everyone get in on TON? Right at the beginning for me. For me, it was right at the beginning. But if anybody else wants to share what price points they jumped on TON, put your comments inside the comment section and answer Pablo's question. So, Goldman Sachs. Bitcoin as a store of value. Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon sees such a case. Goldman Sachs GS CEO David Solomon, in an interview with CNBC at the Summer Olympics in Paris, hinted at Bitcoin's potential to serve as a store of value. Solomon, while reluctant to speculate on Bitcoin's price, acknowledged the super interesting technology underlying the cryptocurrency as reported by the block. He noted the potential of this technology to streamline the financial system in an interestingly digital world. Now, this is coming from the perspective of Goldman Sachs CEO. When asked if Bitcoin could serve as a reserve like gold, Solomon responded with, there very well could be a store of value case. So, essentially, comparing it to gold might not be that far-fetched, is what he's saying in a simple world. In 2021, Solomon predicted that Bitcoin was on the path to match and eventually surpass gold's market capitalization. This was the same year Goldman Sachs launched its own crypto desk. Despite Solomon's cautious comments, Goldman Sachs has been actively investing in the digital asset space. The bank has also seen growing interest from hedge funds clients in the crypto-related products. Goldman Sachs' interest in digital asset space is not new. The bank is set to initiate 3 tokenization projects by the end of 2024, aiming to transform how digital investments in financial assets. This move will tokenize assets like money market funds and real estate holdings, utilizing both public and private blockchains. These projects will include tokenizing the US fund complexities and debt issuance in Europe, while further details pending. Earlier this year, Goldman Sachs was among the firms that had completed a series of tests in Catanos network, a network designed for institutional assets. So, according to Goldman Sachs' CEO, Bitcoin has still a very prospering future. It can be compared to gold. This is his perspectives, Goldman Sachs' perspective. It can be compared to gold as a very promising future ahead of itself. It's going to do incredibly well for itself. Now, Bank of England is the next news we're going to go from tonight's live show. The Bank of England is also spearheading some of their programs regarding cryptocurrencies as well. Before we go through that, let's go inside the comment section first. What price points did everyone get on? I purchased TON through Uphold if anyone was looking to buy. As a shrimp, it is worth getting into TON with a very small amount of funds or just concentrate on XRP. As a shrimp, just concentrate on XRP. Trump and Elon for crypto. Let's go, Dave. Is 320,000 XRP enough? It's an incredible amount and you're going to have a very prospering future ahead of yourself. If you hold 320,000 XRP, you have a very bright future ahead of yourself. On the long basis, just remember one thing, that money is not made overnight, it's made over time. Keep that in mind when you're holding XRP. But you have a very prospering future ahead of yourself, definitely. $1 to 30 cents, $1 to 80 cents last October. Now, Bank of England. The Bank of England to experiment with wholesale CBDC synchronizations. Now, we do know for a fact that Russia has spearheaded their CBDC programs. Brazil has essentially spearheaded their CBDC programs as well, receiving an absolute massive applaud from the Bank of International Settlements for launching next year. The EU is also getting ready to launch next year. Russia is getting ready to launch next year. All their testings and actual payments are happening this year. And the Bank of England is also spearheading their CBDC programs. Now, remember one thing. The Bank of England, the EU, Brazil, Russia, all these are the same countries that said 2027, 2028, 2030 is when they're launching their CBDCs. And they're all launching next year. All their real payments and test payments are happening this year, and they're all launching next year, which is something that I did say. I said if a country doesn't launch in 2024, then they're going to be launching 2025. I said if any country that doesn't launch in 2024 will launch in 2025. While all of these banks, these centralized banks, were telling people 2030, 2029, 2028. And I said, if they don't launch in 2024, whoever doesn't launch 2024 is launching in 2025. And would you look at that? They're all getting ready for their launches. Bank of England to experiment with wholesale CBDCs synchronizations. The Bank of England is proposing an experimental program using its real-time gross settlements, RTGS system, and wholesale central bank digital currencies. To judge their settlement capacity and interoperability, the central bank announced in a discussion paper. The Bank of England promised to undertake the new series of experiments within the next 6 months. The experiments largely examine CBDC settlements in comparison with the synchronizations of non-CBDC central bank money. As trialed in the project Miranda, a synchronization network integrates existing RTG systems. Not clear that the DLT is needed at all, both CBDC and synchronization approaches may depend on distributed ledger technology. The Bank of England starts with a word of caution about it. The extent to which programmable platforms could impact on our monetary and financial stability objectives will ultimately depend on the likelihood that financial markets take up these technologies at a scale. The bank's current assessment is that the likelihood of this remains uncertain. Yet to emerge, DLT use cases may also affect the take-up, so we must guard against failure of essentially imagination, the paper added. The Bank of England is revamping its current RTGS system. Chaps with the new version expected to debut in the next few months. And Chaps also crashed earlier in July as well. And then the new version of the Bank of England's Chaps that's going to be connected to a wholesale CBDC and a retail CBDC is going to be happening in the next few months. Bank of England, next few months, wholesale CBDCs, Chaps, RTGSs, everything. Lots of use cases to check out. The Bank of England outlined 5 experiments. 3 of them would test delivery versus payment, DVP transactions with securities, where delivery of these assets is essentially confidential on the transfer of funds. Those experiments would increase its complexities and build on the findings of Project Miranda. An experiment with foreign exchange payment versus payment, PVP transactions with settlements in Connell on the presence of payments in both currencies is proposed. The Bank of England is already testing PVP transactions with a synchronization network in its extension of Project Miranda. Now the Bank of England is proposing to test PVP transactions using sterling pound wholesale CBDCs. The British pounds wholesale CBDCs is what's coming in the next few months. Real payments in test mode, but real wholesale central bank digital currencies, British pounds, is about to be happening next few months, which is massive, honestly. Finally, the Bank of England wants to conduct an experiment using assets and multiple currencies on a single platform as well. That experiment could be carried out within Project Argo. Now, all of these projects are the Bank of International Settlements projects. And remember, the Bank of International Settlements, cross-border payments, PDF documentation. The paper raises design questions as an aside. It observed the experiments with wholesale CBDCs have so far minted CBDCs from the currency that was already present in the RTGS. Rather than minting the CBDC natively, in addition, the platform on which the CBDC is minted may be controlled by the central bank or a third party. Just to put it in perspective as well, just to repeat that as well. Remember when I shared the news about Dubai, essentially when I shared the news about the United Arab Emirates, the United Arab Emirates central bank said that their central bank is not going to be accepting Bitcoin and Ethereum payments. And they said Bitcoin and Ethereum is perfectly fine if anybody wants to buy it and use it as a store of value. But they said the central bank is not going to be using as legal tender. And they said the central bank of the United Arab Emirates is going to be using CBDCs only. And I said there's one platform doing CBDCs only, which is Ripple, XRP, 24,000 crypto projects. Only one is doing essentially CBDCs. And I also said that the central bank of the United Arab Emirates said that this essentially the central bank of the United Arab Emirates is not the one printing the wholesale CBDCs, all the CBDCs, is what they said. They said, we're not the ones printing it. There's a third party involved that's printing their CBDCs for them. The central bank of the United Arab Emirates said that they're not the ones that's printing the CBDC. There's a third party printing it for them. Now, obviously, we know who the third party is that's printing their CBDCs. And then the UK, the Bank of England, has also said something on the similar lines, which is the paper raises design questions as aside. It observed that experiments within the wholesale CBDCs have so far been minted CBDCs from currencies that was already present in the RTGS, rather than minting the CBDCs natively. In addition, the platform on which the CBDC is minted may be controlled by the central bank, which is the exact same thing that essentially said, by the central bank of the United Arab Emirates. Third parties printing it, they are in control. Is minted, the CBDC is minted, may be in control by the central bank or the third party that's minting. In the later case, the system would be dependent on the resilience of the infrastructure beyond the bank's control. Beyond the bank's control. Responses to the paper were invited through October 31st. This is the Bank of England. So we've had the Bank of essentially Brazil spearhead towards CBDCs, and the Bank of Russia spearhead towards CBDCs, and the EU's launch. All these countries are launching 2025 pretty much. All their test payments with real money in CBDCs is happening this year, and they're all launching next year. But if you ask them, they're all launching 2029. But in reality, they'll all launch next year, which is incredible. Honestly. And their words pretty much match up to exactly what the central bank of the United Arab Emirates said. Which is the central bank of the United Arab Emirates is not the one who's printing the CBDCs. Third parties printing it for them. And that they're not going to be using Bitcoin and Ethereum as legal tender, but people in their own country can buy it. Bitcoin, Ethereum, they can buy it and spend it if they want to, but the central bank won't be using it as legal tender. And they're going to be using a third party to print it. Bank of England, they're using a third party to print it. And the Bank of England is also spearheading their CBDC projects. Massive, honestly, absolutely massive. Because I still can't believe that how some people can't see the future of XRP, or in some cases, the future of XDC. Or the future of XLM. But they can see the future of Solana, a project that's crashed 11 times. But the reason why they see, they don't see the future of XRP is because they have no patience. People who don't see a future in XRP, who don't see a future in XDC, who don't see a future in XLM, it's not because XLM, XRP, and XDC have no future. It's because those people are impatient and they're only in the mortgage space for a quick buck, not revolutionary. Not extraordinary amounts of money over time. So, next news to talk about tonight's live show is regarding Russia. There's a lot of spearheading going on, and one of them is Russia's fully legalized crypto mining. Bitcoin mining has been fully legalized in Russia today, announced on paper. Before we go through that news, let's go inside the comment section first. Trump and Elon for crypto. Let's go. Been holding since November 21st. Let's go, Zinfin. Bro, please pray to our Lord, our God, Jesus Christ today. Let's go, Zinfin. Yep, would. Lend us a tenner. Lol. I also hold XDC, hence Zinfin, but only 70,000 to 80,000, which is still an incredible amount. 70,000 to 80,000 of XDC, incredible amount. The payment networks will obviously be essentially XRP, XLM, XDC. These are the three X's that everybody should have inside their portfolios. In terms of research-wise, not financial advice in any sort of way, but for the number one category, which is finance. So 80,000, 1,000, incredible. Zenfin, you have an incredible future ahead of yourself. Incredible future. Well done to you, mate. So, Russia. Russia legalizes crypto mining and brings an experimental regime. Russia's lower house of Federal Assembly, known as a State Duma, has passed two crypto-related laws today. A Russia-based policy expert told CoinDesk, and RIA Novosti, Russia's state-owned domestic news agency, also reported on the matter as well. The first law fully legalizes cryptocurrency mining in Russia from November 1st, 2024. Legal entities and individual entrepreneurs registered with the Ministry of Digital Deployment can engage in Bitcoin mining or any other cryptocurrency mining, while those who are not registered can only operate mining rigs if they do not exceed energy consumption limits. Oversight over mining activities will be spread between different institutions, with the Bank of Russia seemingly having overriding their powers. Now, this is the interesting part about this is mainly because of what Trump said. All of this news coming out with all these countries suddenly, going into Bitcoin mining, suddenly thinking about holding a lot of Bitcoin is just based on what Trump said. Trump made one of the biggest announcements, the US being the number one in Bitcoin, holding the most amount of Bitcoin in the future, being the number one Bitcoin mining country in the world, and so on and so on. And Hong Kong wants to follow Donald Trump's footsteps before Donald Trump essentially gets into presidency. China is thinking about doing the exact same thing, getting involved in Bitcoin, bad looks of it again, only because a few members are pushing China towards that verdict. And now we have Russia also spearheading their regulations and opening their doors to Bitcoin mining. Russia's the same country that last week Russia said they're not sure about Bitcoin mining because it's using too much electricity. They're not sure if that's going to do any sort of help towards their country. They're the same country that said these things last week. Donald Trump makes a massive speech and says United States will become number one blockchain country, number one Bitcoin holder, number one Bitcoin mining country. All of a sudden, Russia has regulations for Bitcoin mining. Hong Kong wants to spearhead it towards the Bitcoin mining, hold Bitcoin as reserve assets. China's thinking about changing their minds. The cabinet ministers will independently establish a scope of requirements for activities of the mining infrastructure operators. Other requirements include for mining pools, participants will be approved by the Russian government in agreement with the Bank of Russia. The report said miners will also need to provide information to the government authorized body about the digital currency obtained as a result of mining. The authorized body and the central bank will have the right to introduce a ban or restriction on transactions with the digital currency to maintain Russia's monetary stability. This law also brings into effect a ban on advertising cryptocurrencies and offering them to an unlimited number of people. The second law, which comes into effect on September 1st, 2024, is a special experimental regime which hands the Bank of Russia powers to allow authorized companies to conduct cross-border settlements and exchange trading in digital currencies. Companies, exchanges, and crypto entities will need to apply to the central bank to become a part of the experimental regime, said Antti, the founder of CEO of Kick Ecosystem. The Bank of Russia will be able to conduct not one but three experiments from September 1st of this year on the use of cryptocurrencies for settlements in foreign trades, on the conduct of exchange trading in cryptocurrencies, and on the creation of electronic platforms for operations on cryptocurrencies based on the MPS, a separate RIA University report said. So Russia is also spearheading towards their Bitcoin mining as well. This should restore some sort of price faith towards Bitcoin as well, for anybody that's feeling a bit down on that matter. But a lot of countries are spearheading it. And by the looks of it, they want to reach Donald Trump's goals in their own jurisdictions before Donald Trump makes the presidency. Now, Democrats. Democratic congressman has came out and said good indications Kamala Harris will be better on crypto than Biden. You know what's interesting about this is that Kamala Harris, what's interesting about this is the Democrats have came out and said that Kamala Harris is going to be better for crypto than Biden. That's not impressive. Anybody is better than Biden. That's not really a target to be impressed about. What's interesting is in about a few weeks ago or a week ago, the Democrats and a few influential people came out and said that Kamala Harris is better than Trump for crypto. Now that one was just absolutely absurd to think for a second that Kamala Harris is a better option for cryptocurrencies than Trump. Absolutely absurd. But it looks like the Democrats have lowered their expectations. They've lowered their expectations, and they are no longer spreading lies. Well, they still spread lies, but they've lowered their expectations. They're no longer comparing Kamala Harris as a pro-crypto to Donald Trump, but they're comparing Kamala Harris as a pro-crypto to Biden. So they've lowered themselves. They've lowered their interest, in other words. And that's not really impressive. It's Biden. Biden's not pro anything. He doesn't even know if he's Biden himself. Just comparing yourself to Biden is not impressive in any sort of way. But now we're going to go through what they exactly said as well on that matter, because they've spread quite a bit of lies, which needs to be rectified. But before we do that, let's go inside the comment section first. I have multiple accounts. I'm aware of the risk. Mention something the world reacts and people wonder who they should vote for. Trump. Sorry for the typo. I meant Trump mentions something. Yes. So this Democratic congressman has good indications that Kamala Harris will be better on crypto than Biden. The rep Willie Nickel, one of the handful of vocally pro-crypto House Democrats, said that he has already heard and seen enough to lead him to believe that Kamala Harris will govern in a manner more favorable to crypto industries than current US President Joe Biden, should she take the White House in November. We've gotten some good indications that she's going to take a balanced approach on the issue. Kamala Harris didn't even bother attending the biggest Bitcoin event there is inside the United States. Just put that in perspective. But she is pro-crypto, apparently. On Saturday, Nickel, along with the 14 other House Democrats and Democratic candidates for House seats, sent a letter to Democratic National Committee's DNC, imploring that Kamala Harris's campaign to implement a number of pro-crypto measures in the near term. Those wish a list essentially included Kamala Harris choosing a pro-crypto running mate, her campaign engaging in dialogues with crypto industry leaders, and the DNC adding that language about crypto to its party platform. Nickel said that in addition to those requests, he and the pro-crypto House Democrats have also privately asked the Kamala Harris campaign to commit to a lot of other stuff related to crypto and digital asset policies. While Nickel wouldn't elaborate on those private conversations, he said that in the 9 days since the vice president launched her campaign, he has already heard and seen enough to be enthusiastic about the prospects of Kamala Harris's administration crypto policies. Let me be the first one to tell you that Kamala Harris has no crypto policies whatsoever. She has many CBDC policies, but zero crypto policies. And he goes on to spread more lies. I'm very hopeful we'll get a good policy position, he said, from the Kamala Harris campaign. Kamala Harris, 4 years, did absolutely nothing for cryptocurrencies and tried to veto crypto innovation. But now she's pro-crypto. Nickel added that he also has the reason to be optimistic that crypto might end up in the Democratic Party's national platform by its convention in Chicago next month. At this point, the congressman said crypto has become such a prominent political issue that whenever the DNC views fall on the subject, the matter can no longer be avoided. Candidates running for president need to put forward good positions about digital innovation so they can keep these jobs here in the US, Nickel said. I think we're going to see that from Kamala Harris's campaign. The moderate Democrat attended the Bitcoin National Conference this weekend, where prominent politicians, including Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and former President Donald Trump, made an appearance at the Bitcoin conference, and this Democrat, Nickel Willie, decided to attend as well. And while many Bitcoin maximalists respond positively to Trump's speech on Saturday. Nickel says that he was thoroughly unconvinced by the showing, due in part to the fact that Trump was once vocal crypto skeptic who failed to support the industry during his first term in office. So this person, a Democratic who is pro-crypto, attended the Bitcoin conference where essentially Trump made a lot of announcements. Bitcoin for reserve assets, Bitcoin should be mined inside the United States, we should be creating more jobs and bringing more innovation in blockchain. And he heard none of these things. And he decided to focus on Trump's past. Even though Trump's future is not just words, Trump has 3 NFT projects and has capability of understanding the basics of blockchain. I wouldn't say he's an engineer in blockchain, an advanced technician in blockchain, but he has the basics understandings of blockchain, and he has 3 NFT projects. And he said, I don't believe he's going to do much of anything that he says he's going to do. Trump being a president that has said he's going to do something and he's did it. He's the only president, not only, but a handful few of presidents have always said something and did it. Trump is one of those people. We have evidence of Trump saying something and doing it. Democrats love the idea of spreading and spewing lies. And I know for a fact that essentially Democrats are allergic to factual information. He said, I don't believe he's going to do much of anything that he said he's going to do. Nichols said he's trying to stay out of jail and he's going to say anything to get votes. Doesn't really matter. He's still wealthy. He needs to come out of jail. Presidency isn't going to help him out of jail. Trump's speech reached a crescent on Saturday when the former president pledged to fire U.S. Securities Exchange Commission SEC chairman Gary Gensler, which is true. Trump did say he is going to fire Gary Gensler. And he said if he's re-elected. Trump then repeated the line after he received a massive applause. And a Democrat said, I'm very skeptical that Trump is someone who understands the issue, Nichols said. I don't think that when he said that, he even knew who Gary Gensler was. This Democrat said that he doesn't even know if Trump knows who Gary Gensler is. And again, just to say it again, Democrats are extremely allergic to factual information. Trump actually was a person that put Gary Gensler into that position of the SEC chairman. Trump elected him as the SEC chairman a very long time ago. So I don't know what it is. Are they allergic to factual information? For you to be coming out and saying Trump doesn't even know who Gary Gensler is. He knows who Gary Gensler is because he appointed him to his chair. That's factual information. So how are you coming out as essentially a congressman from the Democratic side and coming out and saying, I don't even think Trump knows who Gary Gensler is? First of all, if we're going to be talking about amnesia when it comes to politicians, you can't say anything. Have you seen Biden? He can't spell his own name. And you're coming out and spreading these lies of, I don't even think he knows who Gary Gensler is. He appointed him to his chair a very long time ago. I think he knows very clearly who he is. What I don't think he knows is how far Gary Gensler abused his power. But he did realize he got a good applause line and essentially continued to so he did it again. Yes, the reason why Trump said Gary Gensler's name and he got a massive applause because nobody likes Gary Gensler because he's abusing his power. The reason why Trump was surprised of the massive applause he got is because he wasn't aware that Gary Gensler was abusing his power up to a certain extent. Because, let's just think about it. Trump was busy in courts back to back, trying to not get killed So Trump was going through some major difficulties. One, he was being stifled and tried to be taken to prison. And 2, he almost got taken out. So I think he had a lot of issues going on. And he wasn't very focused on how much Gary Gensler was abusing his power because Trump had his own issues going on with the stifleness that's going on. And for you to come out and say, essentially, I don't think Trump knows who Gary Gensler is. He appointed the man. How could he not know who he is? What he was surprised about is how much Gary Gensler abused his power, not because he didn't know who Gary Gensler was. Genuinely, Democrats are just allergic to factual information. Not just Democrats. In general, politicians are very allergic to factual information. So, next news on tonight's live show is regarding Ripple CEO. Ripple CEO Brad has came out on the topic of Gary Gensler. Ripple CEO has came out and essentially decided to put Gary Gensler in his position again. So as we all know, Gary Gensler has, countersued so many crypto industries. Gary Gensler and his department, the SEC, have sued essentially Binance. They've sued Kraken, Coinbase, multitude of crypto small projects as well, and obviously the big one, Ripple. So it seems like Gary Gensler is confused. So the time has finally came that Gary Gensler has confused himself, because for a very long time, Gary Gensler has confused everybody else around him, because we don't know till this day what is a security in terms of cryptocurrencies, because Gary Gensler has a difficulty of coming up with any sort of explanation on why something is a security, because he's using laws from the 1980s. And it looks like the time has finally came that not only has Gary Gensler confused everybody in the crypto industry, but Gary Gensler, by the looks of it, has also confused himself now, which is why Brad has decided to come out from Ripple's CEO and ridicule him, which is Ripple's CEO. Brad has called out the US Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, of hypocrisy in handling the cryptocurrency regulations. Why? Because Gary Gensler has confused himself in the Binance case. And Brad made this remark in the light of a recent event in the SEC lawsuit against Binance, where the regulatory body wanted to alter the initial complaints. Ripple's CEO has taken a swipe at the US Exchange Commission, SEC, for what he says are inconsistent and confusing regulatory practices. In a recent statement, Brad mentioned that the SEC's hypocritical approach, noting that SEC Chairman Gary Gensler said that the rules are clear, which is very true. Gary Gensler has multiple times came out on the news in interviews and mentioned that the rules are clear for cryptocurrencies, even though they're not. They're far from clear. And but the SEC does not appear to be able to enforce them in any sort of a way, because the SEC has not been able to win any sort of major case regarding securities. So for this reason, Ripple CEO has stated that the SEC's actions lead to more industry confusion. This action by the SEC is in bid to prevent a courtroom ruling on whether Sol, and you know what's interesting regarding the Binance case? The SEC sued Binance for essentially dealing with securities, unregistered securities. And the SEC case for Binance is that Solana, Cardano, Matic, File, Atom, Sand, Mana, Algo, AXS, and Coty are all securities, according to essentially the SEC. They sued Binance for selling unregistered securities, and these were the crypto projects mentioned in the file: Solana, Matic, Cardano, and so on, as being securities. Now it looks like while we're getting ready for a ruling to come out from the judge, the SEC has decided to add some extra information and take some extra information out of the case, because apparently, I'm guessing they don't want a ruling, because the SEC knows fully well that once that ruling comes out, the judge is going to rule it as not a security. So the SEC has decided, so the action by the SEC is in bid to prevent a courtroom ruling on whether Solana, ADA, Matic, File, and Atom, Sand, Mana, Algo are securities under the Howey test. He doesn't want the ruling to come up because he knows that the judge is going to rule it as not securities, which, is very confusing, because according to Gary Gensler, the rules are clear. But for some oddly reason, not a single judge finds it clear in any sort of a way. But to Gary Gensler, the rules are clear, but not a single judge says it's clear in any sort of a way. Every single judge is confused. And that's why they always rule against the SEC when it comes to securities. On Monday, the SEC announced its intentions to amend its original complaint against Binance. The SEC is going to amend its essentially original complaint against Binance. This development delays a courtroom ruling on whether the tokens are securities. The SEC is scared because he knows the judge is going to come out and say they're not securities, and the Howey test is rubbish, and the Howey test doesn't apply to cryptocurrencies. And the SEC is scared, and so is Gary Gensler. The SEC's filings noted that it plans to move to alter the complaint to address third-party crypto asset securities concerns so as not to necessitate an immediate court ruling on the matter. Binance pointed out that the SEC's decision to amend the complaint indicates that the possible changes are not limited to the tokens in the case. During this controversy backing Ripple's CEO stance, former President Donald Trump also joined the other critics of the SEC Chairman Gary Gensler at the Bitcoin conference, saying that the SEC Chairman Gary Gensler should be fired, and Trump stating these matters. Now, also keeping on this fact as well, that Ripple versus SEC lawsuit nears conclusion. At the same time, the legal war between Ripple and the SEC started back in December 2020 also seems to close to a turning point. The partial victory that Ripple secured in 2023 when a judge stated that XRP does not essentially satisfy of all elements of the Howey test for securities when sold to the general public in preparation for the final decision. However, there are still some concerns regarding the sales of XRP to institutional investors. However, Ripple CEO Brad remains hopeful that the matter will be resolved with legal analytics, expect as they may be appeal after the case rulings, which they won't be because Gary Gensler will be fired from his position. Now, Judge Phillips Hamilton of the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California also permitted a civil lawsuit against Ripple to go to trial. The lawsuit claims that the Ripple CEO engaged in securities frauds by making false statements during an interview in 2017, which nevertheless was absolute BS as well. And all we're waiting for right now is Judge Torres, which most likely is also going to be ruling against the SEC. So, Binance case, the SEC is going to be losing against Binance. I've said this multiple times because the SEC has already lost once against Binance. They haven't been able to close a single case. The SEC has just wasted money back to back, suing Binance for no apparent reason, suing Coinbase for no apparent reason, suing Kraken for no apparent reason, suing Ripple for no apparent reason, suing all these major corporations inside the blockchain space for absolute no apparent reason. Because they haven't won a single case. Even the Binance case, that was the $4 billion case, the big payment that's happened in history, was because of the CFTC. Gary Gensler didn't even get a single penny from that case. It was Rustam Benham, the chairman of the CFTC. But nevertheless, the Binance rulings are going to be coming out very soon as well, and the SEC and Gary Gensler are going to be embarrassed again. It's just, if I was Gary Gensler, just quit while you're ahead, and maybe people will forget. Maybe people will forget about you in a month's time. Now, Russia has embraced crypto for international payments as well, as what we're going to talk about in that selection next. Russia has embraced crypto international payments. Defining sanctions is what's going on right now. Cross-border payments, and Russia has given the green light to pretty much international cryptocurrency payments, which is incredibly massive. Incredibly bullish news as well regarding Russia's episode. Also, the Binance news is absolutely bullish as well. Gary Gensler looking like an absolute schmuck in front of the judges. What could be better than that? Now, before I tell you the Russian news, let's go to the comment section first. Now, this is a live Q&A as well. If you have any comments, put it down in the comment section. More than happy to answer any questions you may have. Let's see where we were at. We were at here, I think. Yes. Good evening, CMF and Miles. How's everyone today? Ronnie, good to see you. How you doing? Funky brother, good morning, Professor Miles, and the rest of CMF family. Good to see you as well. Brother Miles, I've just got back from Cape Verde after a week. Let's go. What have I missed on XRP? On the matter of XRP, we're just waiting for responses on the case so far still, and it should be coming to an end very soon. Sooner than you think is what Brad mentioned, essentially. And also regarding the ending part of the news. So when we get to the ending of the live show, I also have Ripple news to share as well, but we're not there yet. All these facts, Miles, speaking tonight, outstanding. Let's go, Ray. Even if Trump didn't like Gary Gensler, he knew who he was or anybody that's in position because of all the stocks Trump holds, jealous Democrats. True, very true, facts. Let's go Pisces. Absolute facts. Trump is the only president to go to North Korea, but he still bows down to. I don't know what the picture is. The other ones. I thought we would have had the XRP settlement by now. By now, no. But we should get a response soon. Democrats play a victim with emotions. Bless their hearts. They just don't know any better. Very sad. 100%. Gary might be fired soon. Definitely. In the end, everyone will bow down before the Lord Jesus Christ. Let's go, Zinfin. Do you think August is the month for the case? I know it's this year. August definitely gives us an outcome, is what I would say. What do you think about crypto stacks or stacks? Not sure about the spelling, sorry. I haven't looked into stacks for quite a while. The crypto project stacks, I haven't looked into it for quite a while. I know which one you're referring to, but I don't know what their recent developments and partnerships are. I would have to look into it to give you a better perspective on the matter. We need to meet some point, all family. We need to meet up at some point, all of the CMF members. Yes, definitely. Must be nice to have unlimited taxpayer dollars to sue all these companies. True. Miles, it is so hilarious to see this turtle trying to, like hell, to win the race. She is too far out. Waited. To be clear, I am not an American. I will be very surprised if the turtle wins the race. Yes, if she does win the race, a lot of things will happen inside the US, which wouldn't be good as an impact for the rest of the world. The US markets impact the rest of the world, and But I did say I have a feeling that she might win. Not that I would be happy necessarily, but I said that I have a feeling that they obviously don't want Trump to win, because Trump goes against all their plans, the World Economic Forum plans, the Bank of International Settlement plans, the International Monetary plans, and so on and so on. So obviously they don't want Trump to win because it's hard to control Trump. And I've said that, essentially Kamala Harris is a good listener. So I said maybe, and I do have a feeling that they're going to manipulate this election and then she's going to win. I said they're going to manipulate this election and then she's going to win somehow. Because Kamala Harris is a good listener, which is what they want as a president. The World Bank, essentially the Bank of International Settlements, International Monetary Fund, World Economic Forum, with the world going and shifting into digital era, CBDC, social credits, and so on, they want a good listener. And I said that maybe they will manipulate the race and that she will win because she's a good listener. Trump, on the other hand, is a leader, and he won't take advice from the Bank of International Settlements and essentially the International Monetary Fund and so on. He wants to lead the way himself. And he doesn't want to listen to their corrupt plans. And I said maybe that Kamala Harris is going to have a very, very rigged election and she's going to win in a rigged election. It's because she's a good listener and we're going into CBDCs. The entire world is going into CBDCs and Trump is against CBDCs. And that means Trump is going against the Bank of International Settlements, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Economic Forum, which is a group of individuals you don't want to go against. If you do that, they will try to, Trump attended a Trump rally and he almost got, but obviously he survived. But they will do anything to remove you if you go against their plans. So I did say that I have a feeling that we're going to get either a rigged election or Trump won't make it to the presidency day because of something. I don't know. It's because there's so much manipulation and corruption in this world, and the world is shifting into CBDCs. And if Trump doesn't go into CBDCs, then he goes against their entire plan. And the entire plan is for everybody to be in CBDCs. 98% of the world's centralized banks are in CBDCs. 98%. That's according to the Bank of International Settlements. The banks of all central banks, 63 centralized banks. But given the matter aside, 98 banks are in CBDCs. There's no way in hell they're going to let the US not be in CBDCs. And if you have somebody like Trump trying to go against CBDCs, he's going up against the Bank of International Settlements, which is a losing battle. He's going up against the International Monetary Fund and the Bank and the World Economic Forum, which is a losing battle. These people are incredibly greedy, incredibly power hungry, and they will do anything possible to make their plans happen. And Trump wants to go against their plans, which, I root for him. He's the better choice, without a doubt. What's going on right now, he's the better choice with what's going on right now. But these people are power hungry. These people are greedy, and they will do anything within their, capacity to make their plans happen. Now, Trump could obviously, say, yes, don't worry, I'll do CBDCs, but I don't think they trust him enough. I think they still see Trump as a person that might listen or won't listen and so on. But Kamala Harris will listen. Kamala Harris is, essentially brain dead. She's going to come and say, yes, no problem. What do you want me to do? This is what basically Kamala Harris is going to do. First day in office, if by some rigged election, Kamala Harris makes it to office, the first thing she's going to do is read from a piece of paper and say, yes, I will do this. Yes, I will do that. Yes, I will do that. No problem. Trump, on the other hand, he would say, no, I don't need this paper. I'm going to make my own speech. The differences. She's going to say yes to everything. Trump is going to say, no, I'm going to do what I want. And that particular group of people, the World Economic Forum, they don't like that. And they're very power hungry and very greedy. And they will do anything. And we've seen some indications of how they will do anything they can. One was trying to put this man in prison. Two was trying to, at his own election, essentially Trump rally, and that was the first attempt. So that's what I said. I have a feeling that with a very, 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 very rigged election, it's either Trump doesn't make it the presidency, or Trump makes it the presidency, and Kamala wins on a rigged election. I'm the same, Miles. I think she will too. I think they'll do everything they can to stop Trump, unfortunately. Me and Shelly on the same page. Hello, bro. What do you think about DSO? The owner got done for fraud. Yes, a very, very long time ago, I got asked about the crypto project DSO. I said, don't do it. A very long time ago, I was asked about the project DSO. And I said, it's not a project that I will go into whatsoever. But it was a project that was promoted by crypto influencers quite a lot. A long time ago, crypto influencers were promoting the hell out of DSO. And I said, I wouldn't consider it as a project, as a must-have project in my portfolio. And now the founder is basically done fraud and the project's going downhill. It looks like a rug pull on the chart as well. But I don't think that project will be revived unless the community in DSO revives that project. The same way that happened with Luna. Luna crashed and then Luna C was created and then the Luna C developers brought Luna back to life. If something like that happens, then DSO can come back to life. If the community around DSO don't bring that project back to life, then it's pretty much done for. If they manipulated the race against Trump, it can have a civil war. Which is true. If they do manipulate the race against Trump, they can have a civil war. Which is something what they want to have as well. I don't know why, but I think it's something that they also want to have. If not her, the Democrats will get up, I think. Yep. I don't see how Trump, and I'm fully aware a civil war would start. And because it generally does look like their votes are not being accepted. I don't see how Trump could even win over the BS regarding CBDCs. It's enchanted in the world economy future. It is. Honestly, what Happy Pisces said is facts as well. What Shelley said is facts as well. Well, let's see if you're right. You have recently stated you are never wrong. Not recently stated, I've always stated I'm never wrong. And I said, I'm almost never wrong. And then I said, no, I'm never wrong. So this is where it could go. It's two ways. Okay, it's three ways it could go. Okay, there's three ways it could go. Outcome number one. Here's the outcomes I would give. Outcome number one. Trump is telling everybody now, no CBDCs, no CBDCs. And, he goes into presidency and he's just playing a role, and CBDCs do happen. Outcome number two. Trump will make it to presidency. However, Kamala will win with a rigged election. So Trump is alive, but a rigged election happens and Kamala wins. Outcome number three, and there's only three outcomes, is Trump won't make it to presidency. Outcome number one, Trump is just playing a role and he will get elected and CBDCs are coming. Outcome number two, Trump will be alive, but Kamala will win in a rigged election. Outcome number three, he won't make it to presidency. I 100% agree with you, Miles. I hate to say it too, but many Roman psychics are saying the same thing as well, that he won't be in the same, that he won't be in the race come November. They are often correct. Scary. So it's one of these outcomes will happen. One of these three outcomes are going to happen. One, he makes the presidency and he's just playing a role. CBDCs are coming. Two, he makes it, he's alive, but Kamala will win in a rigged election. And three, he won't make it to presidency at all. Trump is playing the good cop. End of the day, doesn't matter who win. The World Economic Forum will rule. Do the Democrats are aware it is dangerous to manipulate the election and to risk to divide the U.S., which could be profitable for their enemies? Which I think is exactly what they're doing, is profit for their enemies. Remember what I said. So do the Democrats know that it is dangerous to manipulate the election and to risk to divide the US and can be profitable for their enemies? Remember what I said. Empires have fallen in history. The Roman Empire, the Persian Empire, the British Empire. It's either empire falls or empire adapts. If the empire falls, it's basically what happens. Profit for their enemies. If empire adapts, then empire adapts. But then there's also the other option as well, which is something that I stated a very long time ago, a conversation that me and JP were having, which was that this is just a manipulation game from the US to get everybody on board for CBDCs, Ripple's being the backbone, American company leads the way. There's also that outcome on the table as well. More attempts coming. Sadly, there have been multiple attempts. Absolutely sad. Trump is also one of them, so don't worry. I think Trump should pull out for his own safety. And will DSO get delisted of Coinbase? Eventually, probably. He has probably realized this. They need yes people, not people that are critical thinkers. Facts. Correct is coming. Let's focus on our path. Don't worry about the elections. Well, I'll be honest, our path is on the elections. Because the elections will be the indications of CBDCs, which is going to be indication of Ripple, which is going to be indication of XRP. John D. Rockefeller, schools equals works, not free-thinking individuals. Yep. Miles, why does it have to be a rigged election if VP Harris wins? Good question. Why does it have to be a rigged election if Vice President Kamala Harris wins? Why is it a rigged election if she wins? Is because she's never going to get the votes she needs at all. It's because a lot of people are fed up with the Democrats inside the United States. I'm not an American, and I can understand why they're fed up as well. A lot of people are fed up with the Democrats abusing their powers and filling their pockets. And they want to switch. They want to switch to the other side. There's too many. Because of the amount of rent going up, mortgages going up, loans going up, and wars randomly starting, taxpayers' money is going towards wars. These are all the things that Democrats have started. The economy is pretty much went down the toilet, not just for the US, but for the rest of the world as well. With rent, mortgage, gas, electricity, groceries, anything you could think of has skyrocketed. Inflation has skyrocketed. Wars are randomly starting. Wars are being also funded. The war against Ukraine and Russia was unnecessary. It was absolutely unnecessary. Which could have been, the greatest wars have ended before the war has even started. So a lot of things have made people get fed up from this particular party group. And the indications are there. So people want to switch sides. But, it doesn't matter who you choose, red or blue, it's always going to be the same outcome. But people want to switch sides. That's the reason it's a rigged election. Because there's nobody on that side. If there is somebody on that side, the only people that are voting against Trump, let me just make it very clear. There's two groups of people voting against Trump. Okay, there are only two groups of people voting against Trump. The first group of people that are voting against Trump is because they hate Trump. The first group of people that are voting against Trump, and they're a very small group of people, the bigger party group, is because they hate Trump. They're only voting against them because they hate Trump. They don't care about Trump fixing the economy. They don't care about Trump stopping the wars. They don't care about Trump lowering the inflation. They don't care about anything that Trump is going to give them that's going to better their lives. All they care about is, I hate this person. That's the first group of people that are voting against them. And the second group of people that are voting against Trump are voting for Kamala Harris. Only because, essentially, she's a woman. But about a week ago, they couldn't describe what a woman was. Before the Kamala Harris election, that same group of people that are voting for her, they couldn't describe what a woman was. But now they're voting for her because she's a woman. And the other group of people that are voting against Trump is they only hate the person, which they're two small minority groups, is what I'm trying to say. The bigger group are the individuals that are fed up with the wars, that are fed up with the inflation, that are fed up with high mortgages, that are fed up with gas prices, food prices, rent prices, loan prices, all these types of prices. They're fed up. The larger group, they're fed up. And the small two minority groups are the ones that hate the guy and they don't care about him fixing everything. And the other group is they're voting for Kamala Harris because she's a woman. But, last month they couldn't describe what a woman was, but now they know. Which is wrong. You shouldn't vote for somebody based on their gender. You shouldn't vote for somebody based on their race. You should vote for somebody based on their policies. It could be a woman, it could be a female or a male. It could be anyone, female or male. But vote for their policies. Don't vote for them because of their gender. Don't vote for them because of their race. Base your votes on intellectual policies. But at the end of the day, it's all rigged anyway. So Trump. So that's why I would say, Miles, why does it have to be a rigged election for VP Harris? Because there's only two groups. Michelle Obama will be against Trump. Trump is going to be there until the end. Trump is going to be until the end. I don't think he's playing a role, because why even mention CBDCs? Most people don't even know about CBDCs. Just be pro crypto and move on. And there is civil war in America for the last 100 years, pretty much. The problem is it does affect us who get in to the affected world. Yes. Question: was it rigged when Trump was involved in January 6th election? Now, Google and Facebook are already shown to be manipulating the search results. True, yes. When you type in Trump on Google search, it comes up with Kamala Harris news. If you type in quote Trump quote, and then it will come up with Trump news. But if you just type in Kamala Harris, it doesn't come up with Trump news. So yes, Google is already manipulating it, and so is Facebook. The manipulation is already starting. Look at what they've done so far. No name. So look at what they've done so far. Yes, Kamala will never win unless she cheats. I don't know how many people appreciate the last 4 years. Right or left, red, blue, they both have the same coach. Yes, Ronnie is facts. They do. That's why I say it doesn't matter which side you vote for. It's rigged either way. Don't even try to hide. They don't even try to hide more. Yes, 100% truth. Miles blinded by this. They hate him and they know nothing about him. If you ask them. Unfortunately, a two-party system is no longer working. But we US aren't ready to allow other parties into the game. Kamala Harris, let's not forget that she was at the P. Diddy parties. Exactly. Convenience. Don't forget about the immigrants that Democrats are trying to legalize for voting purposes. Miles, if you're using the CBDC issuance for this election, it's insufficient. It's insignificant if all this is already planned and no matter who's the president will have to bend to the World Economic Forum. Yes, which is true. But it's nice to know how far we've gotten so far because CBDCs will happen either way, which is all true. So, getting back to the news. And again, it doesn't really matter, as Ronnie said as well, as I said multiple times as well. It's the who you vote for, red or blue, doesn't really matter. Which side of, essentially, something that I said a long time ago. When you're voting for anyone to lead the country, you're essentially voting for the next group of people to have access to your taxpayer money. So in the UK, when we vote for Labour, Conservatives, Tories, or whatever, all we're doing is voting for the next group of individuals to have access to our taxpayer money. And then we vote again for the next group to have access to our taxpayer money, and nothing will change. It's essentially what's happening. When you're voting for the next prime minister of your country, voting for the next president of your country, all you're doing is voting for the next group of individuals to have access to your taxpayer money, and nothing will change. The agenda is always going to be the same. But then somewhere, sometimes down the line, you get people like Trump that come up and mess up the game. But in general, you're only voting for the next group of individuals to have access to your taxpaying money, to fill their pockets and fill their family members' pockets with. And then you choose the next group, and then they have access to your taxpaying money. And then the next group, they have access to your taxpaying money, and so on. And sometimes you vote for the same group to have access to your taxpaying money, and it just repeats itself. So when you're voting for the next president or prime minister, you're just voting for the next group of people to have access to your pockets in a very simple term. But then sometimes you get people like Trump that just come out of nowhere and try to, mess up the whole game, which is very rare. People like Trump, very, very rare, extremely rare. Now, Russia. Russia embraces crypto for international payments, defining sanctions. Russia is expediting its efforts to legalize cryptocurrencies for cross-border transactions, aims increasing Western sanctions, led by the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Russia. The initiative reflects a significant shift in the country's approach to digital assets. Previously, Russia maintained a conservative stance on cryptocurrencies since the adoption on the document that they essentially came out with on digital financial assets law in 2020, the country banned its use of payment methods within its borders. The Bank of Russia, in particular, opposed the domestic use of cryptocurrencies over concerns about destabilizing the national currency, the ruble. However, the evolving geopolitical crisis in Ukraine compelled this revelation of this policy. Following the imposition of heavy sanctions, Russia's interest in digital currencies grew. It explored ways to essentially regard economic obstacles caused by the penalties. Deputy Minister Alexei has essentially called for establishing a legal framework for cross-border payments in terms of crypto transactions. So Russia is about to be green-lighting cross-border payments in terms of cryptocurrencies, which is quite a bit of a massive news on Russia's side as well. Now, here's some news regarding Circle. Circle, which is essentially USDC, has said to be trading around a $5 billion valuation. Circle is about to go through an IPO. Circle, Internet Financial privately held stock, is trading in the secondary market at a price of implying a $5 billion to $5.25 billion valuation for the stablecoin issuer ahead of its planned initial public offering. According to 3 people with knowledge in the matter, the issuance of USDC, the second largest stablecoin by market cap, is allowing some tradings of its shares in the secondary markets ahead of its planned IPO. 2 of the people said that, but on a case-by-case basis and only specific situations, the sellers are said to be early-stage investors who are diversifying for liquidity reasons or Circle employees. One of the people said that employees are often given the chance to monetize stock options they hold before a company goes public. The company is not allowing trades below $5 billion valuations, 2 of the people said. Circle doesn't respond to numerous requests for comments before publication time. The Coinbase-backed firm's valuation reached about $9 billion in 2022 when it tried to go public through a deal with a special proposal acquisition called Corsten Acquisition Corp. The companies essentially announced the mutual termination of the proposed combinations in December 2022 after the US Exchange Commission (SEC) didn't grant approval for the tie-up in time. And following the collapse of Sam Bankman-Fried's FTX a month earlier, the outslaughter of the crypto winter happened as well. Now, investors need a threat about difference between the 2022 valuations and the figure that's implied by the secondary market traders, one of the people said. The secondary market is very depressed because there are many investors who need to raise cash and so will sell at basically any price they add. A secondary market is where investors buy and sell securities such as stocks and bonds that have already been issued. In January, a report titled State of the USDC Economy, Circle said the number of USDC wallets with at least $10 had jumped 59% in the previous year to about 2.7 million. The number of transactions in 2023 had reached 591 million through the end of November. Circle filed to sell shares to the public for the first time in January of this year. The company filed a confidential draft S1 document with the US SEC. The number of shares to be offered and the price range for the planned offerings had been determined in the filings, said. The exact timings of the planned IPO is also not known. Circle intends to make the US its new legal home ahead of the planned IPO. Bloomberg reported on this matter as well. The company filed paperwork to move from its current location in Ireland. So Circle is going to be moving its location from Ireland to the United States. Circle's new headquarters is going to be the United States. Circle's IPO is also coming up. Is it going to be coming out this year? Probably it's going to be coming out this year because their filings are pretty much done and they're valuing themselves around $5 billion. Now, if Coinbase is going to do well on a long-term basis, which it is because of all the backings it has and contracts in place, and obviously being the third party for the Bitcoin ETFs as the middleman for massive corporations like BlackRock and so on, Circle is going to also play a massive role in that matter as well. And BlackRock also does hold a substantial amount of USDC as well, but BlackRock does not hold any USDT, but they do hold USDC. And I'll be honest, if you're in the market space of entering stocks as well, if you're in Coinbase stocks, you might want to be looking into IPOs for Circle coming out as well. Now, digital euro to be most private as well, we're going to go through. Actually, we'll leave that one. Before we go through the next news, let's go to the comment section first. Let's see what the question is on. Am I correct in thinking that silver should be 3-to-1 to gold? Sure. Miles, if you're using CBDC's issuance for this election, isn't I'll read that as well. Yeah. Now, major news coming out of essentially Ripple as well to go from tonight's live show. But actually, before we do that, let's go for the Euro news first. You know, we'll do Ripple news and then Euro news. Let's see. Ripple betting big on Brazil. San Francisco-based blockchain company Ripple recently announced a new tie-up in order to promote fintech opportunities in Brazil with the help of the Next Accelerator program. Now, Brazil has obviously made the announcements of spearheading their CBDCs. coming out in 2024. And Ripple has decided to bet big on Brazil. I wonder why. Notably, Ripple picked Brazil as its first company for targeted investments. The company has pointed to the country's crypto-friendly regulatory environment as well as a strong community of developers as the main reason behind such a decision. Next is the large startup acceleration program in the financial sector in Brazil. Some of the startups that are sponsored by the Next include AMFI, LupiPay, and Libra. Ripple has already identified 2 fintech startups that is going to support. Naturally, the company targets these companies that are seeking to utilize the XRP ledger. Companies that are going to be utilizing the XRP ledger is what Ripple is aiming for. Before anybody comes out with any sort of news on this from the crypto space and goes, Ripple and Brazil's got nothing to do with XRP, Ripple is aiming for companies that are going to utilize the XRP ledger. Just put that out there as well. Ripple has had a long, strong presence in Brazil, as reported by You Today. It has set up a separate branch in the country that served as a springboard for its expansions in Latin America. In April, Ripple's president Monica Long spoke about how crypto has affected the financial landscapes in Latin America. Back in May, Ripple also announced a $100,000 donation to the victims of Brazil's floods as well. So on that basis, it is a bit of a massive news as well regarding Ripple and Brazil. One, they're aiming for essentially companies that want to utilize the XRP ledger, not Ripple's own networks or Ripple payments and so on, which also does utilize the XRP ledger. But Ripple's aiming for signing companies that want to utilize the XRP ledger in Brazil. Not only that, Ripple is also betting big on Brazil. And Brazil's coming out with CBDC next year. Now, there's no coincidence in any sort of a way. Absolutely no coincidence on that matter. Mike, what did you just say about Coinbase stock? I lost connection. Coinbase stock. I said if you're interested in Coinbase, if you're the type of person that's interested in Coinbase stock, that you might want to be looking into essentially the IPO that's coming out of Circle as well. Brazil's 2025 October, that's where the next program for vaccinations will start. You may laugh, but remember this comment. I'm not going to laugh, Ronnie, in any sort of a way. I'll be honest with you. I agree. Now, digital euro news. So on this live show, we talked about the British digital pounds. Test payments, real payments, happening with the Bank of England in a few months. And the Bank of England is actually getting ready to launch as well. And Brazil obviously getting ready to launch as well on their CBDC. The EU, now, we're going to be talking about it. The digital euro to be the most private electronic payment option. The digital euro will be one of the most private forms of electronic payments, according to the data protection official from the European Union. On October 2nd, 2020, the European Union Central Bank released a report laying the groundwork for its central bank digital currency, CBDC, the digital euro. The digital euro has been in an investigation phase since October 21st, during which the ECB officials and the bankers essentially about its possible design and purpose. As of November 2023, the digital euro has entered the preparation phase with possible legislation adoption expected by the last financial quarter of 2024. If the ECB can stick to its roadmap, digital euro use cases could roll out by November 2025. Digital euro launching CBDC by November 2025. Despite still being in development, the digital euro is already facing resistance over privacy concerns. Now, Martin Damon, a data protection officer at the ECB, claimed in June 13 on a blog post that the ECB is designing digital euro to be the most private electronic payment option there is. There's no such thing. To achieve this goal, the ECB must offer assurance to gain the trust of EU citizens to use the CBDC. Damon spoke with Cointelegraph regarding about the issue, where he stressed that the ECB has no hidden agenda. The central bank of essentially the EU has no hidden agenda. Obviously not. You know, how would you say that? Governments having hidden agendas? The World Economic Forum having a hidden agenda? Bank of International Settlements, hidden agenda? No. International Monetary Fund, hidden agenda? No. I mean, there's no hidden agendas in this world at all. Who said there's hidden agendas? You know, him coming out doing an interview as an ECB member from the EU coming out and saying there's no hidden agendas whatsoever. Of course not. There was never a hidden agenda. We are committed to being as transparent as possible regarding the privacy aspects of the digital euro as our analysis progress, and we have nothing to hide. Of course, you have nothing to hide. You know, you never hide anything. Tackling the digital euro's privacy issue, most Europeans remain uniformed about the digital euro. A June 6 survey from Germany's central bank, the Deutsche Bank, found that 59% of respondents knew nothing about it. The ECB has a prime opportunity to form a digital euro's narrative for most Europeans. The survey found that despite the widespread ignorance about the digital euro, 3/4 of respondents rated privacy regarding using the digital euro as a very important or important factor. In 2024, progress report on the digital euro, the ECB said it would not collect financial data from clients. However, it will gather some data to comply with anti-money laundering AML regulations. Damon said that there are strong efforts to create a digital euro that requires the least data possible. As a principle, the euro system stating points it is to process only as little as possible personal data required to fulfill our objectives. The ECB report mentioned how is it exploring technological solutions, namely regarding the euro system, the issue and the payment infrastructure provider can't directly link transactions specified individuals. Privacy is by replacing identity attributions with fictitious ones, thus hiding personal identities. This process allows authorities to analyze data without being directly traceable to individuals, maintaining the data's usefulness in transaction processing while protecting individual privacies. The strategy aligns with that of Richard Brown's R3 Chief Technology Officer, who specializes in expertise, blockchain and CBDCs, R3 XDC. Brown told Cointelegraph that an elegant solution to the digital euro's privacy problems will provide private firms unrelated to the government managing customers direct commercial relationships as their personality data. He said that the identifiable data would be kept away from the core records of financial transactions, also known as the ledger. Brown said that the ECB would only provide core infrastructure and ledgers for a digital euro, while private firms would act as wallet providers. This infrastructure would ease privacy concerns, especially if the privacy promises were backed by the law in them, backed by the law to force CBDCs. You know, that's not going to raise suspicions. Making it impossible to indirectly regarding user links. The ECB approach follows this route, as a payment service providers in charge of handling citizens' data would have segregated data streams with the euro system, making it impossible to directly identify end users or link any of their data processes to determine end users. Could the digital euro offer a backdoor for governments? Could the digital euro offer a backdoor to governments? Concerns remain that governments could have a backdoor into user data, as some information needs to be shared with authorities. This for safety regulations, obviously. Damon acknowledged the concerns, but said that a number of mechanisms will prevent this from happening. The euro system would not be technically able to, directly identify digital euro users. Of course not. Track their payments? No. Nor legally allowed to do so, nor would have essentially any sort of commercial incentives as public institutions. Of course not. The government's knowing about your CBDC payments, that's absolutely absurd. Central bank, the EU central bank, knowing about your transactions? No, that's not possible. Damon said that ECBs will adhere to the digital euros legislation. The proposal explicitly prohibits us from processing personal data directly to identify users. Of course not. The ECB would be overseen by the European data protection supervisors, so more people will have access to your data, is what's going on here, and independent institutions as well. Ooh, that's interesting. That supervises EU institutions and has the power to conduct audits and inspections. So obviously Damon talks about how the EU will have no access to your data. They can't see your CBDC transactions. They can't see none of your transactions at all. And that nobody will have access to your transactions, your CBDC transactions. Nobody will have access to them, except the central bank, the data protection supervisors, the independent institutions, and the EU institutions empowered to conduct audits. So remember, nobody will have access to them. your CBDC transactions, nobody's going to have access to them, except the centralized bank, the European Data Protection, the independent institutions, and the supervisors EU institutions. Do they see what they write? The sentence above, nobody will know. The paragraph above, nobody will have access. The paragraph below, everybody has access. The ECG has a history of defending privacy rights. Of course it does. The court invalidated the Safe Harbor 2015 and Privacy Shield 2020 frameworks, which provided data transfers between the EU and the United States after it would found that these agreements did not actually protect the EU citizens' data from the US government surveillance. Of course not. Digital Euro skeptics still don't trust the project. They're calling the people that have common sense in this matter skeptics. So if you have common sense and intelligence, you're a skeptic. If you're a moron, then you're just a moron. Fiat currencies like the dollar or euro rely on the public's trust in the issuer. Damon said that the trust and privacies are core aspects taken into account for digital euro. High levels of privacies and trust will be key aspects to distinguish a digital euro from other digital available payment solutions. Richard Turn, the author of Cashless, China's Digital Currency Revolution, and an influencer focused on CBDCs, told Cointelegraph that he believes that the ECB's messaging on privacy is spot on, and that their claims that the digital euro will be more private than existing card-based payments are true. Apparently, according to Richard, who did a book essentially on CBDCs and China, he said that the EU is going to be better than China's CBDC. Despite the assurance offered by ECBs backed by solid laws and supervising authorities, mistrust remains. Jonah Carter, an independent German member of the parliament and organizer of the awareness campaign Bitcoin in Buddhistan, told Cointelegraph that history has demonstrated that several cases where states repeatedly used new technologies against people, which is true. Risks are essentially dismissed concerning legal frameworks that's supposed to rule out any abuse. She noted that how the CBDC does not mention that such laws can be rewritten or, essentially circumvented. Now, I believe that a blind faith in ECB's in the ECB centralized CBDC is reckless, no matter what the political promise have made. Josh, the CEO of electronic coin company, there are so many people that are giving their perspectives right now out of the EU because the EU is launching their CBDC essentially next year. Real payments in the EU are happening right now in terms of CBDCs, and next year is when they're coming out with for the public essentially and wholesale CBDCs. So a lot of CEOs are coming out with their perspectives now right now on this matter. CEO of electronic coin companies, which created the privacy coin Zcash, claims that CBDC designs allow issuers to have visibility into balances and transactions and will be able to take actions such as blacklisting addresses or freezing funds. This is a perspective coming from the CEO of Zcash, a privacy token, which came out and essentially said that the government is going to have full access to your CBDCs. They're able to freeze and seize any transactions they want. Privacy is not a binary. Now, Stewart highlighted how governments could mandate the use of their centralized controls, currencies, and suppress alternatives such as privacy-protecting cryptos. The ECB has reportedly stated that digital euro is not intended to substitute other payment solutions, and that the government mandate won't enforce the use of CBDCs. Despite the ECB's good intentions, he believes that even if the control is not exercised abusively today, it's a slippery slope. He highlighted how power doesn't typically cede power, adding that once an individual gives up their rights to the governments, it typically leads to a greater invasions of freedom rather than less, which is facts. If you give up your rights, you're pretty much done for. So that is essentially the news that's coming out of the EU. The EU said they're coming out with CBDCs in 2030, and then they said 2029, and then they said 2028, and then they said 2027, 2026, and now it's 2025, which is something that I said is going to happen. I said if any country if any country doesn't launch in 2024, it's coming out in 2025 regarding the CBDCs. If they don't launch in 2024, they're coming out in 2025, which the EU is coming out with their CBDC 2025. UK is going to be 2025 on that basis. Brazil is 2025. Russia is 2025. India is just going to expand more on their CBDCs as well. But end result is XRP. End result of XRP. All of this CBDC news has relevance to the XRP case, which is coming to an end as well. Ripple's case is coming to an end, and the countries are getting ready to launch CBDCs. Just to put in perspective, before we end the live show, Ripple's case is coming to an end, and countries are getting ready to launch CBDCs. Coincidence or coordinated? And all of these countries are a part of the G20, which is the Bank of International Settlements. So we have officially come to the endings of this live show as well. Miles, what do that have to hide? I hope everyone on here tonight has opted out of, in the process of opting out of the NHS selling your data. Good night, Miles and CMF family. I will see you all tomorrow. Good night, bless. Thank you, brother. See you tomorrow as usual. iPhone users should read the update chances. Great live as usual, Miles. Thank you for your great wisdom and information. Good night, Miles and CMF. Jason, see you tomorrow, brothers and as usual. Jason, thank you so much for the gifts as well. Tonight's live show. That's all donations going to the CMF hedge fund. Hello, Bill. Good to see you as well. How you doing? It is quite late on timings. So apart from holding assets on a nano ledger, is that any other way that to protect yourself? Yes, multiple. Cold storage wallets is the better option than just one cold storage wallet. Tangem is a great wallet as well. And also, I have partnered with Tangem. It's a done deal regarding Tangem. I've partnered with Tangem. And if you use, I forgot to mention this as well, which is quite massive news, but I'll mention on tomorrow's live show as well. If you use code Crypto Miles, so if you go to Tangem's website, which I'll share the link as well. If you go to Tangem's website, and because I had a conversation with Tangem, back-to-back emails with Tangem, and we come to a deal basically. So if you go to Tangem's website and you go to buy Tangem, and then you want to type in your promo code, if you type in Crypto Miles, you get 10% off. It's the first deal I've had with Tangem. And I'm expecting a lot more deals to happen with Tangem as well. But it's officially a done deal with Tangem. If you go to Tangem's website and you type in Crypto Miles, you get 10% off your Tangem wallets. Great live as usual. Well, see you tomorrow as usual. And below, did you miss any XRP news? Yes, they're expanding in Brazil. Timing is everything. Facts. Good night, Miles and CMF. Is it time to turn off my CMF TV? Yes, it is. See you tomorrow as usual. I'm very late. I know the excuses. Yes. OMG, I was right. What's my prize? Lol. Let's go. Shelly was right. Shelly was the only person that said Tangem yesterday when I said, there's a company that I'm talking, there's multiple companies that I'm talking to, but one of them was Tangem. Good night, Miles and all CMF. Great live. JPC tomorrow, brother, same time as usual. Congrats, Miles. Thank you so much, Stormy. Is that link in the CMF? I'm going to put that link in the CMF, yes. Great life. Take care, Miles and family. Good to see things are coming along for me. Let's go, Ray. Thanks so much for kind words. Good night, Miles. Shelly, way to go. Yes, Shelly was on the deal. Amazing deal with Tangem, my favorite cold wallet. Let's go, Billo. How do you mean, Brazil? Yes, Brazil, and Ripple's expanding into Brazil. Can you post the link in CMF? Yes, I can. I'll post this. I'll post the link in the side of CMF Telegram group, definitely. Thanks, Miles. Love your work. Miles, please get some rest tonight. Yes, I will definitely get some rest. I definitely need to sleep. Good night, Miles and family. Great live. Many thanks. Have a good one. Ian, see you tomorrow sometime as usual. How much off the promo code? 10% off. Great news. Night CMF. Stormy, see you tomorrow sometime as usual as well. How did you come into contact with Tangem? Isn't that a very big institution? It is. Tangem is a very big institution inside the crypto space. But I'm good at what I do, which is closing deals. So I'll see everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. If you enjoyed this live show, drop a follow, drop a like, and tune into it every single night. And I'll see everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you're around the world, CMF. I will see everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Is that the only news? Are there adoptions and regulations news? Yes. CBDC news. I'll tell you now. CBDC news. So on this live show, we talked about regarding CBDC news was the EU and the Bank of England in terms of CBDC news. The EU and the Bank of England are very close on launching 2025 in terms of CBDC news. Good night, Miles. Bone Crusher. See you tomorrow, sometime as usual. Ronnie, let's go. See you tomorrow, sometime as usual. Good night, CMF. Billo, see you tomorrow, sometime as usual. Good night, CMF. Scott, see you tomorrow, same time as usual, brother. See you, dude. Leaf, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Night today to all CMF. Shelly, let's go. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. I will see everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you're around the world. CMF, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Thanks, bro. Appreciate it. Can't wait to you. Be my neighbor, Palm Jamora. Let's go. Soon.